Yin and Yang. What does the symbol really mean? It is one of the most recognizable symbols in the world, a circle divided into black and white, with each side flowing into the other. Inside the black section is a white dot. Inside the white section is a black dot. Most people recognize it as the symbol of Yin and Yang. It appears on jewelry, clothing, company logos, tattoos, and works of art. It is often used to represent balance, peace, or the idea that opposites belong together. But what does Yin and Yang actually mean? Where did the idea come from? Why does the symbol look the way it does? And does it describe something real about the world? Or is it simply an ancient philosophical belief? Yin and Yang developed within ancient Chinese thought. They are sometimes described as two opposing forces, but this can be misleading. Yin and Yang are not two supernatural armies fighting for control of the universe. They are better understood as two contrasting but interconnected aspects of a single process. The original meanings of the words were connected to sunlight and shadow. Yang referred to the sunny side of a hill, while Yin referred to the shaded side. Imagine standing beside a mountain in the morning. One side is illuminated by the sun. It is warm, bright, and active. The other side remains cool, dark, and still. However, as the sun moves across the sky, the relationship changes. The side that was bright may later enter shadow. The side that was dark may become illuminated. The mountain itself has not been divided into two permanently separate worlds. Light and shadow change according to time, position, and relationship. This simple observation contains the central idea of yin and yang. Something is not necessarily yin or yang forever. It may be yin in one relationship and yang in another. It may also change from one into the other. Darkness is generally associated with yin, while light is associated with yang. Night is yin in relation to day. Winter is yin in relation to summer. Stillness is yin in relation to movement. Coolness is yin in relation to heat. But these are not fixed labels for good and evil. Yin is not bad, and yang is not good. Darkness is necessary for rest. Stillness makes recovery possible. Winter allows certain natural cycles to begin again. In the same way, constant heat, activity, and brightness would not create perfect life. They could produce exhaustion, drought, and destruction. The point is not that one side must defeat the other. Life depends upon their relationship. The concept became important across several traditions of Chinese philosophy, rather than belonging exclusively to one religion. It influenced Taoist thought, Confucian philosophy, theories of government, traditional medicine, martial arts, astronomy, and understandings of the natural world. Scholars describe three recurring features of yin-yang thought. Reality is interconnected, yin and yang continually interact, and harmony depends upon their changing relationship rather than a permanently motionless balance. One of the texts most closely associated with these ideas is the Yi Jing, or Book of Changes. The earliest layers of this work developed as a system of divination in ancient China. People consulted it when facing uncertain decisions. The text uses patterns made from two different kinds of lines. An unbroken line is associated with yang, a broken line is associated with yin. 3 lines form a trigram, and 2 trigrams combine to form a 6-line figure known as a hexagram. There are 64 possible hexagrams. Each one represents a particular situation or pattern of change. The central lesson of the Book of Changes is not that the future is completely fixed. Instead, situations contain tendencies, tensions, and possibilities. Wisdom involves recognizing the pattern of the present moment and responding appropriately as it changes. The Yi Jing became one of the most influential texts in Chinese intellectual history. Although it should not be described simply as a Taoist book, it was interpreted by Confucian, Taoist, and other thinkers over many centuries. Yin and Yang also appear in the Tao Te Ching, one of the foundational texts associated with Taoism. Chapter 42 describes the development of the world through a movement from unity into difference and multiplicity. It states that the countless things of the world carry yin and embrace yang, and that harmony emerges through their interaction. Scholars caution that the fully developed yin-yang cosmological system appeared over time, particularly during the Han period. However, the Dou De Jing clearly presents existence as emerging through relationships between complementary aspects rather than through isolated objects. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. The famous black and white image is known as a Taiji Tu, meaning a diagram of the supreme ultimate or great ultimate. The philosophical ideas of yin and yang are much older than the precise form of the symbol most people recognize today. Ancient Chinese thinkers discussed complementary forces long before the familiar swirling design became standard. Diagrams representing cosmic change became especially important in the Song dynasty, when scholars created visual models to explain the relationships between unity, yin, yang, and the wider universe. The modern-looking black and white design therefore should not be imagined as a single symbol drawn by one ancient philosopher at the beginning of Chinese history. It developed through a long history of diagrams, interpretations, and artistic forms. Cambridge Resolve. Every part of the symbol communicates an idea. First, the design is enclosed within a circle. The circle suggests that yin and yang belong to one whole. They are not separate universes. They exist within the same reality. Second, the dividing line is curved rather than straight. A straight line might suggest a permanent boundary. The flowing S-shaped curve suggests movement and transformation. Yin is always moving towards yang, while yang is always moving towards yin. Day gradually becomes night. Summer moves towards winter. Activity eventually produces tiredness and rest. Rest restores the possibility of future action. Third, neither side remains entirely separate. A small white circle appears within the black area, and a black circle appears within the white. These dots are often explained as showing that each side contains the potential or beginning of the other. At the darkest point of night, the movement towards dawn has already begun. At the brightest point of the day, evening is approaching. Strength may contain vulnerability. Silence may contain meaning. Success may contain the possibility of failure. Difficulty may contain the beginning of change. The dots do not necessarily mean that every bad situation contains an equal amount of good or that suffering should be ignored. They represent the more careful idea that conditions are rarely absolutely pure, permanent, or independent. Yin and yang are also relative. Consider water. Compared with ice, liquid water is warm and active, making it relatively yang. Compared with boiling steam, the same water is cool and still, making it relatively yin. The object has not changed between the two comparisons. Its classification changes according to its relationship with something else. A similar principle can apply to human behavior. Speaking may be yang in relation to silence, but calm conversation may be yin in relation to shouting. Running may be yang in relation to walking, but a steady run may appear yin in relation to an explosive sprint. This means yin and yang cannot always be understood by placing everything into two permanent boxes. Their meaning depends upon context. The principle also challenges the idea that balance always means dividing everything equally. A healthy balance does not necessarily mean 50% yin and 50% yang at every moment. A person may need intense activity during an emergency. The same person may later require deep rest. Summer is not balanced because every summer day contains 12 hours of winter. The larger natural cycle contains both expansion and contraction. Harmony is dynamic. It changes according to circumstances. This is one of the most common misunderstandings of the symbol. People sometimes imagine yin and yang as a perfectly still arrangement in which both sides remain equal forever. Chinese philosophical interpretations more often emphasize continual movement, interaction, growth, and decline. Balance is not a frozen condition. It is the ability of a system to adjust. Another misunderstanding is that yin and yang mean good and evil. In many Western stories, light represents goodness and darkness represents wickedness. This can lead people to assume that the white side is morally good and the black side is morally bad. But that is not the central meaning of yin and yang. Both are necessary aspects of existence. A healthy person requires activity and rest. A productive society requires both change and stability. A good conversation requires speaking and listening. Too much of either side may create a problem. Too much activity produces exhaustion. Too much rest produces stagnation. Too much control may destroy creativity. Too little structure may produce disorder. The problem is often not the existence of yin or yang, but an inappropriate or excessive relationship between them. The concept has also been connected historically with gender. Yin became associated with qualities traditionally described as feminine, while yang became associated with qualities described as masculine. However, scholars warn against assuming that yin simply means woman and yang simply means man. The original ideas concerned wider patterns such as shadow and sunlight, receptivity and activity, or earth and heaven. Over time, some writers used these categories to justify unequal social roles and male authority. Other thinkers emphasize that yin and yang are interdependent and that neither can exist or function alone. Modern scholars, therefore, examine both the philosophical potential of yin-yang thinking and the ways it has sometimes been used to defend social inequality. Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Yin-yang theory also became important within traditional Chinese medicine. The body was interpreted as a changing network of relationships. Health involved the appropriate interaction of functions described through categories such as heat and cold, interior and exterior, activity and rest. Illness could be explained as an excess, deficiency, or disruption within these relationships. These ideas influenced medical traditions for centuries. However, an important distinction must be made. The historical influence of yin-yang theory is well documented. Ancient texts, commentaries, diagrams, and medical works provide strong evidence that Chinese thinkers used these concepts to interpret nature, society, and the human body. But this does not mean that modern science has discovered two measurable physical substances called yin and yang. Yin and yang are philosophical categories and interpretive concepts. They are not recognized in physics as forces comparable to gravity or electromagnetism. Traditional explanations should therefore not automatically be treated as scientifically proven medical facts. The concept may still be useful without being a literal scientific force. It can function as a model for thinking about relationships, cycles, and unintended consequences. For example, a person may believe that working for as many hours as possible will produce greater success. At first, increased effort may improve performance, but beyond a certain point, the same effort may reduce sleep, concentration, and health. The attempt to maximize productivity begins to destroy productivity. Yang activity, without sufficient yin recovery, becomes self-defeating. A parent may believe that protecting a child from every difficulty will keep the child safe, but complete protection may prevent the child from developing confidence and independence. Care, taken to excess, can create a different kind of vulnerability. A leader may attempt to control every decision to create order, but excessive control may prevent people from reporting problems or proposing new ideas. The search for order may eventually produce weakness. Yin-yang thinking encourages us to look for these reversals. When does strength become rigidity? When does confidence become arrogance? When does patience become avoidance? When does freedom become disorder? When does a solution begin creating the opposite of what it was intended to achieve? This does not mean that every situation has two equally valid sides. Some actions are harmful, unjust, or dishonest. The yin-yang tradition should not be misused to claim that cruelty must be accepted because everything requires balance. Complementarity is not the same as moral equivalence. A victim and an abuser do not simply form two equally necessary sides of a harmonious whole. The concept is most useful when it helps us understand relationships and change, not when it is used to avoid making moral judgments. The symbol also does not teach that conflict will disappear. Yin and yang oppose one another as well as support one another. Night replaces day. Warmth overcomes cold. Movement interrupts stillness. Yet opposition is part of a larger process. The tension between them can generate change. A bow produces power because the string and the curved wood pull against one another. Breathing requires inhaling and exhaling. Walking requires shifting weight from one side of the body to the other. Music depends upon both sound and silence. The world does not always function because tension has been eliminated. Sometimes it functions because different forces remain in a productive relationship. Perhaps this explains why the yin-yang symbol has become so widely recognized. It expresses a complicated idea through a simple image. Reality contains difference, but difference does not always mean complete separation. Opposites may depend upon one another. Conditions change. Extremes may turn into their opposites. What appears weak may possess a different form of strength. What appears empty may create space for something new. The symbol reminds us that we are often looking at only one moment within a much larger cycle. Day feels permanent at midday. Night feels permanent at midnight. Neither is permanent. Each is already moving towards the other. Yin and Yang do not promise that life will always be peaceful. They offer a way of understanding why life continually changes. They encourage us to ask not only whether something is good or bad, strong or weak, active or passive. They ask us to consider its relationship, its timing, and what it may eventually become. The most important message of Yin and Yang may therefore be this: balance is not achieved by destroying one side. It is found by understanding how apparently opposing forces interact within a greater whole. There is darkness within a world of light. There is movement within stillness. There is vulnerability within strength. And within every ending, the conditions for another beginning may already be forming.